Welcome back to the ATQ YouTube channel. Today we're going to do a DIY video on our 2010 to 2016 ATQ Differential Bushing Package for the Genesis Coupe. Now I'm going to give you guys a little bit of information about our kit and what's included in our kit. So first thing I'm going to point out is we've got the aluminum CNC machine support brace that mounts to your subframe. This support brace not only allows you to add a fourth bushing, but it also strengthens the subframe. This brace is made out of billet aluminum. We've had it hard anodized to 50 Rockwell to ensure durability, and black just looks nice. So we've got the fourth bushing that's already pressed in to this bracket so that you don't have to do it. And we've got three other bushings that replace the three factory bushings that are on the car. So these bushings have a steel outer sleeve and an aluminum inner sleeve that's also CNC machine and hard anodized to 50 Rockwell to ensure durability. These are much stronger than the factory bushings. So we've got the OEM differential bolt, so you have a fourth bolt so you can easily attach this. We've got 8 grade 8 bolts, nylon lock nuts, and 16 grade 8 washers for assembly. Those would go into these holes that are drilled into this bracket here so you can mount it. We've got a 2 3/4 inch hole saw, a Milwaukee arbor. This arbor here is our personal shop arbor, so this one has a quick change because we'll be doing a lot of these installations. You guys in the kit will just get the arbor, but it won't have this piece on it. So it works the exact same way, but this is just because we'll be doing a lot of them. So then we've got the 2 hole guides. The Genesis Coupe has 2 different sizes of holes in the subframe. And since we don't know which one you'll have, we decided to supply you guys with both of them just for ease of installation and so you don't have any issues with installing your kit. What these hole guides do is you take your arbor and you're going to attach your hole saw, and then you're going to push this guide into the subframe, and then you're going to drill through, and this keeps everything nice and straight so the hole's perfectly in line where it needs to be. So the first step with doing the installation of the differential kit is we're going to have to remove the exhaust. Ideally, I would like to remove the exhaust at the secondary cap, but on our 2014 Genesis Coupe that we're working on, the nuts and studs they look like they're welded together, so I'm not going to bother because we don't have any replacement parts. And the front 2 studs at the front primary cap, those ones look okay and there's not too much corrosion on it, so I'm going to take these ones off first. So that's one. And, well, almost 2. There we go, we got it off. Alright, so the second piece I'm going to take off here is this bracket that connects the body underneath the exhaust. I'm going to use a DeWalt impact driver and a 12mm socket to remove these 2 bolts. Okay, so I got that off, and I forgot to mention earlier when I was taking off the front exhaust bolts, those you're going to use a deep socket 19mm with an impact gun. Alright, so the next step here is we're going to have to remove the exhaust hangers. So we have 3 exhaust hangers on the car. We've got one in the front, right in front of the secondary cap, and we're slowly going to work our way back here so we don't go out of focus. We have a second exhaust hanger right behind the gas tank on the rear passenger side of the car, right underneath one of the differential bushings. And as we go farther back, we have 2 more exhaust hangers on either side of the exhaust. We're going to use a flathead screwdriver and a small pry bar right here to remove these. So we're going to remove these and I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, now that we've removed the exhaust off the car, we're going to take off the rear sway bar. We're going to use a deep socket 17mm socket, and we're going to use a short stubby 17mm wrench that I made so that I can grab onto the back of the rear end link so that they don't spin when I'm removing these. So all I did with this is I took a wrench and I cut it, and now I'm going to take these off of it. Oh, that came off nice and easy. So that one off. We're going to put the nuts in the wheel there so we don't lose it. So we're going to push the end links through the hole, get them out of the way. And once again, I'm going to take the nut, I'm going to put it in the wheel so I know where it is and we don't lose it. I'm going to push both end links out. And now the next step here is we have to remove the sway bar from the car. So these are 14mm bolts, so we're going to use a 14mm socket and an impact gun, and we're going to zip these out. Okay, so I'm going to use a shallow 14mm socket and a 1/2 inch extension for an impact gun so that I have clearance right here to get the back bolt out for the rear sway bar. So it's 1, 2. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. And the sway bar is off the car. Now we're going to use a 19mm wrench and a 19mm socket on our impact gun. And we're going to take off the drive shaft bolts on the gebo that are facing the rear of the car. So the nut is going to be at the back of the car and the bolt's going to be at the front, and you're going to have it on reverse. The gebo, or the bolts, you have 3 that go towards the front of the car and 3 that go towards the rear. They don't all come off the same way. One of them is right hand thread, one of them is left hand thread, so the gebo and drive shaft doesn't come apart under torque and load. And remember, when you do this, do not have your car in gear and don't have the e-brake on, because you won't be able to rotate the drive shaft. By having the drive shaft rotate, it allows us to spin it and have easy access to each bolt. Alright, so now that I've loosened the center of the drive shaft where it's got that connection point, I've taken off the heat shield and I've dropped everything down. I've gotten the drive shaft off of the differential, and then I tied it up with a piece of wire to the e-brake cable to ensure that it doesn't fall anywhere and it's held in place. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to disconnect the bolt, which is a 12mm bolt, which connected to the e-brake cable. I'm going to remove both of them, just let it hang so that we're able to get tools in here and not end up damaging the e-brake cable. So I'm going to take my impact gun, 12mm socket, take it out, and now it's out of the way and I've got room. You do the same on the other side, and we're good there. Alright, so the next step that I have here is I'm going to remove the, this is a BK2 2014, the BK1s, the axles pop out of the differential, so when you take off the differential bolt mounts for the bushings, as you lower the diff, the axles will pop out and you kind of force them out of the diff. On the BK2s, you have 6 bolts that go all the way around. They're a 12-point socket. Do not use a 6-point socket because you will strip it. So use a 12-point 10mm socket and we're going to take them out. Now that I got it out, I'm going to continue the same step on the other 5 bolts. And if you look over here, you can see we already took the other side out, so we're already ahead of the game here. Okay, so the next step here is I'm going to remove the 3 factory differential bolts. It's a 19mm socket. On the back driver's side, I'm going to use a deep socket, 19mm with an impact gun. On the front 2, I'm going to use a ratchet, or a 1/2 inch ratchet with a shallow 19mm socket to remove the bolts. As you can see, I've got this supported with my transmission lift to prevent it from falling. The differential is extremely heavy, so you want to support it before you take it off, or otherwise you risk getting hurt, and I highly recommend using a transmission lift. So we've removed the front driver's side bushing. We did that one the hard way, so it took us a little bit more time, and since then we've revised the tool that we were using, the tool that we made for this job. We've already removed the rear driver's side, and we just removed the rear passenger side, which is the hardest one to remove. Unfortunately, my camera decided not to record it, but we did time it, and we got it, what was it?
49.58 seconds.
So that's how fast you can get these bushings out with our toolkit. It's amazing. And you can do the whole thing on the car, which makes it really easy, and cuts down about a couple hours of you swearing and knuckle smashing your hands. So we've installed the front passenger side bushing already. Now we're going to do the front driver's side to kind of give you guys an idea of how this tool works and how quickly with this tool on the car we can get these bushings in. And now we're installing the ATQ bushing. So now I've got that on there. I'm going to back this off a little bit so we can go deeper. And yes, guys, that's what she said. Yeah. Right? Yep. So we're very limited for room here, so we've got to, once we get deep enough, we have to loosen the nuts, push the threaded rod forward so we can, push the bushing a little bit farther. And the bushing's installed. Now that we have both bushings in, we're going to take the hole saw guide and we're going to take out this rubber grommet on the VK2. The VK1s don't have these, VK2s do. So we're going to remove that. We're going to take the guide, we're just going to press this into the hole nice and tight. And I'm going to take the Milwaukee hole saw with this super powerful drill and see if I rip my arm off or whether I'm going to drill a hole. And there we go, hole's drilled. Now I'm going to deburr the hole with a file, and then we're going to move on to the next step. Alright, so now that I've deburred the hole, I've mounted the support brace, and I used a clamp to hold it in place, and I'm going to use my Y drill, which is a 404 thou drill, which is the size of these holes, and we're going to use this as a guide to mark the holes where we're going to be drilling. And then after I mark them, I'm going to take this clamp off, and I'm going to take the bracket off, I'm going to drill the holes out. First one. Mark one. Two. Okay, now the holes are marked. I'm going to take the clamp off. Hopefully I did this right. It's the first time doing it on the car. So if you scuff up the inside of the holes here on the support brace, it's not really that big a deal because you're not going to see it when you have your bolts in there. So you can see here, I've got all my holes marked. And then now I'm going to drill them out, and then I'll see you guys in a few minutes. And we'll have these holes ready to go and divert. Now that we've got the bracket up here and the holes drilled, I've deburred the holes, and I've painted this portion of the subframe just to prevent any corrosion or rust in the future. And now we're going to tighten these nuts down, and we're going to do all 8 of them. And once that's in, we're going to install the final bushing, which is the rear driver's side bushing. This you could probably do by yourself, but for DIY instances, we decided to, do it together. Just makes it easier. All right, so that one's in. I'm gonna finish up with the rest of them, and then I'll come back to the rear bushing. Now that we have all the hardware tightened on the bracket, We're now going to use the ATQ tool, and we're going to finish putting in the final bushing on the rear driver's side, and this is one that replaces the factory rear driver's side bushing. So unfortunately our camera cut out as we were finishing the DIY. So I'm taking the ending here in a parking lot. I'm going to get in and I'm going to drive the car and see what it's like for myself. My DIY car's owner has already driven it. He loves it. It does exactly what we thought it would do. Just a heads up guys, we didn't do a DIY on how to reassemble the car. It's the exact opposite of removal, which you guys should be able to figure out on your own. We just felt it wasn't worth making a 30 to 40 minute video on how to put everything back together. So I hope you guys check out the product, buy it, enjoy it. It's great for the track, and we'll see you guys next time.